Hello, and welcome to the Missionary Podcast. I'm your host, Elder Swagibrad, and I'm sorry for the echo, but I'm currently crawling through a vent system trying to infiltrate enemy headquarters. I'm crawling forward to the next vent system right now, and peeking out, I currently see about 4 people, 2 of which are wearing funny hats, and one of which has glasses. They look like pretty cool glasses. And if I look a little closer, I think I just fell, guys. Hello, and get ready for the Missionary Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to bringing you weekly missionary news. And now, the very first thing that I did want to talk about, the highest priority I can think of for today's Missionary Podcast episode, is to talk about last week. As you know, last week was Pi Day, and as you know, I was barely able to make a pie, but unfortunately all of the fruits were out, so I did not make it until after Pi Day. So I decided to celebrate Pi Day a week after Pi Day. And this extra week has also had some other benefits, such as giving me more time to memorize as many digits of the number pi as I possibly can. So I will now recite for you as many digits of the number pi as I can. 3. Yeah, that's as far as I got, guys. Thank you for coming with me on this journey of all the digits of pi that I have successfully memorized. It took me a couple weeks to get there, because I started working on it a little bit before Pi Day, but I think it'd be pretty difficult for anyone to memorize more than I did. So I challenge anyone to try and top that. That's 3.5 digits. So you know where the scoreboard's at. You know the bar for entry to greatness. Because, kind of surprised myself at how far I got on that one. Speaking of greatness, I recently was actually just going through my desk, and in my desk, I noticed a secret compartment inside of one of the drawers. You see, the top right drawer on my desk has a false bottom, and as I lifted up this false bottom, I discovered another false bottom. And underneath that false bottom, I discovered a piece of paper. And the piece of paper was a treasure map. And as I turned the treasure map over, I discovered it was the Declaration of Independence. And as I read the Declaration of Independence, I was feeling very patriotic. So I went down to my local museum. And while I was there, I saw an artifact that reminded me of my youth. So I went to the playground, and as I was swinging on the swing, my foot happened to hit the bottom just slightly differently than it normally does. And as my shoes kicked up the dust, I kicked the corner of a large metal box. And as I unearthed this box, I discovered that it was locked, and I did not have the key. All of this adventuring and discovery had made me rather hungry, so I went to get a sandwich. And as I went to get a sandwich, I saw a special display in the corner of the sandwich shop. And in this special display was just tons of artifacts of the past. Old plows and scythes and shoes and coats, and it honestly could have just been a lost and found, but I'm pretty sure it was a museum piece designed to help us remember our ancestors. And as I was eating my delicious sandwich, walking home, I remembered that I also had ancestors. And as I looked into my library, I saw a book I have not seen for a long time. And in this book was a record of my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Phineas T. Swagibrad. Phineas T. Swagibrad was one of the early pioneers, and his journal, which I had just now seen again, is a beautiful tale of the hardships that he went through and the fun times that he had. I'd like to read an excerpt from his journal now for all of us to learn from. We've been traveling for many miles now. Cousin Mayberry just showed me another rock that she thinks looks like a piece of bread. It was pretty funny after the first 28 times that she showed me. But now that she showed me the 157th rock that looks like a piece of bread, it has begun to get annoying. Pa says we may be on the road for many more miles yet, and there is no end in sight. Every time that we take another step forward, I know that we're another step farther away from the place I grew up and all my friends from home. I hope that one day we'll be able to see them again. But I know that we probably won't. Mainly because they took a hot air balloon, and they're gonna go a lot farther than we're going because we chose to rock. Why did we choose to rock? Because Pa thought it'd make a great adventure. That's why. July 18th. We ran out of food today. I'm beginning to think that we may have to eat some of these rocks that Cousin Mayberry keeps bringing to us. We've asked her to bring us some nuts, or some berries, or literally anything more useful than a rock, but Cousin Mayberry just keeps on bringing us rocks. Even Pa's beginning to think that we should take the hot air balloons, which we see passing over our head every day. But he knows it'll be way more interesting when people in the future look back on our story. I see his point, but I also think that flying in a plane could make a pretty good story. We see them flying by too sometimes now. I don't really know how long we've been traveling. I honestly just made up the date that I wrote at the top because I don't know what month it is or what year it is. We used to be able to tell from the seasons, but then we went so far south that we saw the ocean beneath where we thought it was supposed to be. I thought we were heading towards the west coast, but then all of a sudden we were surrounded by ocean and we found ourselves on an island. But Pa said to just keep swimming because he knew we wasn't at the east coast yet. I mean the west coast. Honestly, I'm not quite sure where Pa thinks he's going at this point. But hopefully, we get there soon. And that's the last entry of the journal right there, folks. We found this journal actually inside of a bottle when we were traveling down our local park, and we saw a river filled with fish and seashells. And as we came closer, we saw a little bottle, and inside of the bottle was this book. So who knows what happened to Phineas Swagibrad? I certainly don't, and I probably never will. But I do know what happened in this record that he gave us, so that's good enough for me. This episode of the Missionary Podcast has been written by Barnsworth, the Black Pen. Thank you, Barnsworth, for writing this episode of the Missionary Podcast. Today's quote is, "Dang, who's ever driving has some basted boost." This episode of the Missionary Podcast has been sponsored by rocks that look like pieces of bread. This is a public warning to not eat any rocks that may look deceptively like pieces of bread. They will hurt your teeth and will make it impossible for the Missionary Podcast to be recorded. So please, if you like the Missionary Podcast, don't eat rocks that look like bread. Just don't do it. It's not that hard. More people die from vending machines than from sharks.